I don't get it. Is she trying to have an affair or is she just testing me?
What is it we do here in the Red Pill? Well, we swap notes. Now, I'm sure a lot of you people have heard all kinds of different stories about us, but I'm here to give you a glimpse inside the locker room. So here we're going to be discussing field reports from a few years back with brand new guys who are trying to learn the strategies that we talk about. Who am I? I'm Ryan. I used to be one of these brand new guys. And I, like you, was pretty good at women, pretty good at relationships, but I wasn't great at it. Hard times hit, things got tough, and it turns out there is nowhere for a man to go nowadays that actually wants him to succeed, to thrive, or to get better at what he does and improve his lot in life. So, like most guys would do, I took it upon myself. I found a bunch of guys in the same boat as me, and we built a set of working strategies based on the experiences of hundreds of thousands of men. Just like you, and just like me. So what is the Red Pill? It's men swapping notes, iron sharpening iron. Welcome to the locker room.
So I am on dread level 6. I have 6 more months to go until I would consider myself an attractive man with options. My question, I have a couple of orbiters who know I'm married, and I've done light lunch dates with both. I've kept in touch through text, sparingly, but always fun and always flirty. I met up with one a couple weeks ago, and then I mentioned that before. She was very responsive to Kino, and we had a nice time together. And we text a couple times a week. 3 days ago, I text her that I'm going to be off early next week and wondering if we can run into each other. Radio silence. 2 days later, I figure she's not so busy she forgot to get back to me. Women are always on their phone, and I don't think she's too busy, forgot, etc. She always texts me right back. So I text again. Never mind, something came up, cancel that. Again, radio silence. Here's the thing. I know she's attracted to me. I've known her for a couple years, and the last time she went radio silent on me, I didn't talk to her for a whole year. Then, out of the blue recently, I show up again and she's all eager to see me. Now she's doing the radio silence again. So how do I interpret this? I'm assuming my married status and the way we give each other indicators of interest might have scared her into thinking I'm trying to have an affair. Or is she just testing me to see if I pass and we keep this little thing going? A couple terms before we get started. IOIs. An IOI, or an indicator of interest, is an old pickup term. I think Mystery was the first one that started it. The idea here was that for a lot of guys, they really didn't know what it meant when a girl was approaching. Girls don't approach the same way guys do. Guys approach by walking up to a girl, making conversation, and let it be known that you find her interesting on a sexual level. That's fine. Girls don't work like that, though. Girls make themselves available. And so IOIs were a way for the old pickup artists to describe these behaviors in more literal terms so a guy could know what to look for. In this case, some obvious ones are girls who make extended eye contact, girls who smile at you, that looking down thing, twiddling with their hair. There's a bunch of body language cues that you can use in this case to find indicators of interest. The idea was you look for 3, and then once you have 3, you know there's like genuine interest in there. Don't focus so much on the numbers. Just be aware that sometimes girls do behaviors because they want to signal that they're interested in you and that you can take it further without being automatically rejected. It's a bit of a topic unto itself, so we're just going to leave it there for now. A hell yes. I think Mark Manson might have been the first one to say this, but I'm pretty sure if I go back far enough, I can find it from a lot of other writers as well. It's the idea that anything other than a hell yes is a no. This is because, for the most part, women are absolutely terrified of conflict. And by saying no to somebody, that's conflict. I know as a guy, you may be thinking, well, that's weird. It doesn't sound like a big deal. I say no all the time. Well, for you, that 1 out of 10 fear is a girl's 10 out of 10 panic attack. Girls would rather flake than say no thank you. It's just the way they're wired. So when you're getting a radio silent treatment to something on a phone, and in this case, the guy was right. The girl absolutely does check her phone constantly. I guarantee she takes it into the bathroom with her. Probably wakes up the first thing in the morning is to look at that nice glowing screen of validation. So when you're getting nothing, or when you're getting a maybe, or when you're getting anything other than an enthusiastic yes, you need to interpret that as no. And that's the point of hell yes. Dread level 6. Dread has 2 distinct parts to it. There's passive dread and there's active dread. Passive dread is the first 5 stages, and that's where you start building frame, you build the idea that your attention, affection, and commitment are dependent on getting value from somebody. You learn to enforce boundaries, you learn to work out, and you learn to start dressing better. That'll get you the first 5 steps of the way. After that, it starts to become more active, where you realize that just building up your weaknesses aren't enough for you, and that you need to start actively making yourself more attractive and start looking at better options. Step 6 is where you start to learn game. You learn how to talk to somebody in a sexual, fun, and flirtatious way. So when you get to that point, that's just acknowledgement that the other person doesn't find you attractive enough, even if you are physically attractive. Now, the advice for this guy, I hate to tell it. Well, I would hate to tell it to him, but I think I might have actually. But he's basically got an orbiter that's using him for validation, and he's mistaking those cues as actual indicators of interest. The reason why he notices this is because every time he tries to escalate the engagement, she completely backs off. Now, any guy who's been overly flirtatious and pickup, or just generally trying to date girls, constantly being friend-zoned, has probably experienced this more than once. You'll find somebody that gives you all the signals that she's very open and very ready for you to approach her sexually. But anytime you try and escalate, she backs off or gets awkward about it. This is another reason why those indicators of interest are kind of one of those things that have to be taken in context. If a girl is actually interested in you, if she actually is giving you an indicator of interest, then they tend to be more subtle clues. They tend to have plausible deniability. They're not using sexual innuendos. There's a smile, there's a wink, there's maybe putting her hair out of the way. Something that if somebody were to call her on it as some form of weird slut shaming, that she would say, no, I'm just in a good mood, I'm smiling. Or, no, I was looking over at him because it just caught my attention. It's nothing weird. If a girl is actively using flirtatious language, then she knows for a fact that she's got to bludgeon a lot of those thirsty kind of guys that respond well to flirtatious behavior, but aren't skilled enough to know what it means. And that's your first indicator of interest, which is a false indicator of interest. And that is obvious flirting. And this is what this guy has here. So what he needs to do is he needs to realize he's doing the same thing that a lot of guys do when they first start active dread. They'll hit on the waitress at the restaurant thinking, well, that'll teach my wife a lesson. Obviously, other girls are into me because I'm hitting on them. Doesn't work that way. That's actually a really, really bad display of lower value from a guy, and it doesn't work well for you. In this case, he's buying girls lunch, he's flirting with them over text, and I guarantee if his wife were to look and see these text messages, he probably wouldn't have the frame to pull this stuff off because he's acting from a place of scarcity. So what's in this for you? The key lesson for you to take from this is you can't delude yourself. You can't drink your own Kool-Aid. He doesn't know what it means to be actually attractive, and so he's just doing things to make him feel more attractive with any of the results that come with it. Had he been doing this properly, the first 5 steps all internal, I'm sure he did those well, working out, developing frame, developing boundaries. We haven't seen them, but we're just going to assume for the sake of it. Active dread is different, and he's really jumping the gun here because He used to do it back when he was unattractive, and now he's trying to jam that square peg into the round hole. And a lot of guys do this. And this is the part that matters for you. You need to completely shed your old mental models. You need to look at step 6, which in this case is just learning game, not as a way to retool your thirsty validation seeking behaviors into the light of attractive behaviors. You need to start looking at it as the tool for an intended purpose. You're learning to be more attractive, which is for step 7, to use this game on your wife. Maybe she just doesn't have that emotional engagement. The idea of getting attention from other girls at this point should merely be incidental. The fact that he got radio silence from this girl was the best indicator he needed to know that he's using these girls to try and get revenge on his wife, essentially. Not a good thing. An alternative for this guy? Well, first off, he needs to stop orbiting other girls. That would be helpful, at least. Secondly, he needs to understand that texting is a logistics tool. He's flirting over text here thinking he's making progress, but he's not. All he's doing is drip feeding validation for free. And that's the worst part, for free. If he was getting something out of this one, then whatever. Text game is text game. You can reward good behavior with some validation. It's not the worst thing in the world. Yeah, I guess if I really had to sum this up, an alternative way of doing this is I would have never texted any of these girls. I would have never taken them out to lunch. At this point, he needs to focus on learning game, and then once he understands it, start practicing on the wife first, because it might just be a case that his sexless relationship is just because she's not emotionally engaged enough. And if that's the case, that's a technical solution that has a technical answer, which he should be technically learning now. Now, if it's the case where he does that, and he starts flirting with his wife, being more, using more game, and it doesn't work, well, then he needs to worry about Stacy and grabbing lunch. And then we're into a whole other set of issues. He's probably going to run into these same problems anyway, but that's a problem for another day. On that note, take care, guys. I'll catch you later.
Morning, guys. I hope you're liking the new video format. Unfortunately, YouTube doesn't let me put end cards in here anymore. So I was going to take this time to give a shout out to the over 150 guys right now that are in Patreon. There's new value being added for them every day, making sure they get their money's worth out of it. So come on in, check it out. I know you'll like it and stay.